2015 was a crazy year for music. Kendrick Lamar dropped To Pimp a Butterfly, a record fans and critics believe to be his best ever work. Kanye West announced he was running for president in 2020, leaving everybody scratching their heads as to why. And Wiz Khalifa drops the biggest single of his career, See You Again, becoming the first hip-hop video to reach 1 billion views on YouTube. Oh, and we also got one of the funniest and most unexpected rap beefs of the decade. In one corner, you had hip-hop royalty, Drizzy, the Sixth God, Drake, who was reaching new levels of superstardom with viral hits like Hotline Bling, his surprise LP If You're Reading This It's Too Late, and his hugely successful collab tape with Future, What a Time to Be Alive. In the other, Philly native Meek Mill, himself a respected MC who was enjoying the success of his Billboard #1 sophomore album, Dreams Worth More Than Money. With bruised egos, explosive tweets, diss tracks on diss tracks, and a girl caught in the middle, it's time we really explored the truth behind the Drake-Meek Mill beef. Let's go back to before this all began. It's 2012. Drake is a young and hungry artist signed to Young Money and still on his come up. Meek is kind of in the same boat, having just released his debut studio album Dreams and Nightmares to moderate success, debuting at #2 on the Billboard 200. Back then, the two artists were friends, with Drake featuring on Meek's single Amen, marking the first time the pair would collaborate on a track together. This friendship was more than just a musical partnership though, as they were often spotted partying together in clubs and casinos. Meek was even present at the now infamous Drake-Chris Brown brawl in a New York City nightclub, which started when Drake taunted Chris Brown over a shared ex, Rihanna. Keep this in mind for later. A couple of years go by and everything seems fine. Drake drops Nothing Was the Same, becoming an instant hip-hop classic, while Meek begins work on his second studio album. This is where the cracks begin to form between the two MCs. You remember that girl we mentioned earlier caught in the middle of this beef? Well, that isn't just any girl. In early 2015, following her split from Safari Samuels, Meek Mill began dating none other than Nicki Minaj. Yes, that same Nicki signed to the Young Money label. That same Nicki who Drake had been both privately and publicly crushing on since his You Can Thank Me Now days. That same Nicki was now in a relationship with Meek Mill, and the two quickly became the new it couple, referred to as Omega. At first, everything was fine. Fine enough for Meek to feature Drake on his single Rico. The song dropped, the fans loved it, and Meek finished recording his album, Dreams Worth More Than Money. That's when things took a turn. Out of nowhere, Meek took to Twitter telling his fans to stop comparing Drake to Me Too. He don't write his own raps, accusing Drake of using a ghostwriter to write his verse on Rico. In the world of hip-hop, these are big accusations, and Meek continued to attack the Toronto MC, stating they were not in the same league. Fans and the media were left scratching their heads, with everybody asking, where was this anger coming from? Up until now, it didn't seem like Drake had done anything to disrespect Meek. The two had just collabed on one of the hottest tracks of the summer, and Meek's sophomore album had debuted at #1 on the Billboard chart. So why? As it turns out, Meek was salty that Drake hadn't shouted out his new album. Go figure. Meek's tweets caused a storm as Drake now battled ghostwriting claims that threatened to damage Drizzy's credibility as a rapper. It didn't take long for Quentin Miller's name to come into the conversation. Miller was accused of being Drake's ghostwriter, with reference tracks off If You're Reading This It's Too Late surfacing and being leaked. As it turns out, Drake's history of faking his bars was a long-standing industry secret, with rapper OG Mako weighing in, some of us been knew. Meek just put it in the air. Sucks to have to compete with 6 and get compared to 1. Legendary radio DJ Funkmaster Flex sided with Meek, stating that the use of a ghostwriter was grounds for dismissal from the rap game. Longtime collaborator and producer of Drake, OVO40 got in the mix, this time backing his boy and dismissing the allegations as false. Even Toronto City Councilor got in the mix and playfully tweeted at Meek, "You're no longer welcome in Toronto," much to everybody's surprise. At this point, the beef was pretty localized and hadn't left the Twitter sphere. But Drake was about to skip the retweets and jump straight into the studio. This is where the beef gets ugly, and it's important to understand Drake's psyche at this moment. Like we mentioned earlier, Meek and Nicki had gone public earlier that year, and no doubt the female MC's new relationship got in the way of a potential Drake and Nicki collaboration, if you know what I mean. Just listen to what Drizzy had to say on Only, a 2014 single he featured on off Nicki's Pink Print album. I never Nicki 'cause she got a man, but when that's over, then I'm first in line. And his closing remarks on, and Nicki, if you ever try and just give me the heads up so we can plan for it. I mean, not exactly subtle, is it? A few days after Meek's original tweets, Drake dropped Charged Up, a diss track aimed at Meek and the accusations made against him. Fans loved the track and public consensus turned against Meek with memes and Insta posts making fun of the Philly rapper. Meek responded, again on Twitter, calling the track Baby Lotion Soft and promised a retaliation. This response track never dropped, and the fans continued to make jokes about Meek and his girl. See, while Meek may have started the beef initially upset that his friend hadn't shouted out the album, Drake took it to another level, no doubt motivated by anger toward the man who stole the woman he was going to marry someday. Drake wastes no time bringing Nicki into the beef with his bars on Charged Up. Rumor has it I either her or never could, but rumor has it hasn't done you any good. And dissing Meek at the same time, done doing favors for people. 'Cause it ain't like I need the money I make off a feature. I see you having trouble going gold. It's important to realize just how close Nicki and Drake were before and during all of this. Both MCs were signed to the Young Money label roughly around the same time, and both were present during a lot of their respective come-ups. All the way back in 2010, Drake would rap on his debut album, I love Nicki Minaj. I told her I'd admit it. I hope one day we get married, just to say we did it. And girl, I'm serious. I'm with you if you with it. That's definitely one way to start dating rumors. A raunchy onstage performance later that year where the pair shared a kiss only added fuel to the fire and resulted in the two having to sit down for an interview with MTV2's Sucker Free Countdown to set the record straight. I've always really actually had a crush on her, always really loved her, and she's always just looked at me as like her little brother. Ouch. That's gotta hurt even for Drake. But the little brother tag wouldn't stick as 2 years later, the pair got Twitter married with the sixth guy tweeting out, please refer to @Nicki Minaj as Mrs. Aubrey Drake Graham and don't stare at her too long. She's finally mine. With a smiley face emoji to top it all off. The new Mrs. Drizzy retweeted the unexpected tweet, adding, yes, it's true, Drake and I tied the knot. Now, as far as publicity stunts go, this one was pretty tame. It turns out the pair weren't married, and it was just a teaser for Nicki's new Moment for Life track. But it didn't stop fans in the media wondering just how much of this joke was really a joke. Although they both hosted separate New Year's Eve parties that year in Miami, Drake was seen at Nicki's All Pink Everything party after the ball drop, sharing a private moment with the rapper. Rumor has it they were also spotted leaving together too. Fast forward back 2015 and things are different now. As we know, Nicki is dating Meek Mill and Drake is dating, well, we're not sure who he was dating at the time. Honestly, it could be anyone. With no response from Meek to Drake's first diss track, Drizzy wasted no time firing off another one, this time titled Back to Back. The track made waves. It was rude, catchy, and full of disses and iconic lines like, is that a world tour or your girl's tour? Back to Back even became the first hip-hop diss track to be nominated for a Grammy. Meek couldn't afford to keep quiet any longer, and he finally released a response with Wanna Know. The track used cover art which photoshopped Drake's face onto one of the members of the lip-singing duo Milli Vanilli and sampled the reference track of ghostwriter Quentin Miller. Despite this, though, the song was lackluster, leaving many fans wanting more in terms of straight disses. With the dust now a little more settled, the hip-hop world weighed in. Charlemagne the God from The Breakfast Club, who had previously been on record saying he wasn't a fan of Drake but respected the music, sided with the Sixth God, saying Meek was out of pocket for starting the beef over nothing. In the end, Meek received the Breakfast Club's Donkey of the Day award for the weak response. Throughout all this, Nicki stayed pretty quiet, not wanting to get in the way of her current boyfriend and label mate's beef. It's obvious she has a lot of love for both MCs, and to watch them go through this was one of the hardest parts of my career, she told Beats One Zane Lowe. She recalled that during this time, Drake's only fear was, what if Nicki takes a shot at me? Then what? It seems clear that while the beef started over Twitter words and bruised egos, the real catalyst for the drama, the reason Drake had 2 diss tracks locked and loaded, was much more to do with his unresolved feelings for Nicki. After Wanna Know, the beef kinda lost momentum. The pair would continue to clown each other at shows, doing freestyle disses and showing memes to the crowd. Drake would really rub salt into Meek's wounds as he snapped a pic with Kanye and Philly OG Will Smith, laughing together at Meek memes on Twitter. He would use this picture as the backdrop to his set that year at OVO Fest. Speaking of OVO Fest, Drake had a third and final diss ready to go titled Threepeat, but he never officially released it, instead choosing to perform it once at the festival that year. Meek did much of the same. During his stop in Charlotte, North Carolina that week, Meek got the crowd hyped when he spit, "Wayne don't with your, Stunner don't with you, Tiger don't with you," also joking about the shooting that took place at OVO Fest the previous week. Everybody catching bullet holes, including Drake and the whole of OVO. Meek seemed to confirm the beef had more than meets the eye when he came out on stage at Nicki's Pink Print tour stop in New Jersey. Stood next to Nicki, he rapped, "I don't think it's about no rapping, it's about Nicki. He told us he was first in line, but it got tricky. I still wake up with the lady that you said you're first in line with," referring to Drake's only lyrics. Over the next few years, the pair would continue to make subtle jabs at each other, but never really reached the heights of 2015. 3 years later, the pair would publicly squash the beef almost as suddenly as it began when Drake brought Meek out at his show in Boston to perform Dreams and Nightmares. With the release of Meek's fourth studio album, fans and critics were treated to the first collaboration between the pair since the Rico days, with Going Bad, which currently sits as Meek's most popular song on Spotify. There was no love lost between Drizzy and Nicki too, as the pair continued to publicly support each other despite Nicki's new relationship and Drake's new life as a father. This wouldn't be the last time Drake got himself in beef with another rapper, but this showed the hip-hop world that Drake had become bigger than rap. Ghostwriting didn't matter, and Drake proved it by going on to have a huge 2016 where he continued to dominate the industry.